Yeah, it's going into really uncharted waters for a new car maker. There's been several attempts to sell used cars out there, and we saw that. GM tried to sell cars online a few years ago through its dealers and ran into some troubles. Really, it's a dream that a lot of people in the auto industry have had for a number of years, but the execution oftentimes is the challenge, in large part because people want to test drive the cars. They want to kick the tires.
Dan, this all comes on a day when Tesla has to make a big bond payment. The shares are at $292. That's well below the convertible price they needed, which is about $359 a share. You know, you've still got a price target on them $100 ahead of where we are today. You're not more concerned about what looks like a measure to stop their showrooms in order to preserve some cash?
Look, I mean, we never thought this was going to be an easy road. And I think it's something that they needed to do in terms of the right medicine, in terms of the 35K vehicle, but it needs to be done profitably. And I think what they're doing in terms of the online model, while the knee-jerk reaction is negative, I think it's the right medicine for the long term for Musk and Tesla, especially as we look out over the next 12, 18 months.
But Tim, what happens if they can't do the online model? So talk for a second about the power that dealerships have across the states when it comes to the way that you have to sell new cars today.
Yeah, well, that's when one of the challenges that Tesla has had from the get-go. It wanted to own its stores and sell directly to the customer, arguing that it could control that experience. But the challenge has been, for 100 years, automakers in this country have sold cars through third-party franchise dealers who hold incredible clout, political clout, and have laws in all these states that essentially prohibits somebody coming in and selling directly to consumers, unless you're Tesla, because Tesla's never had franchise dealers. So they've figured out a way in some places to do this, and in some places they've had a fight for it. So that's been their challenge, and here we go. We're going to go do something even newer, and that's sell directly online.
And Dan, at the same time, they're lowering prices on the higher end Model S, the Model X in China. The lower price Model 3 is good news in the fact that they got to that $35,000 price tag without the rebates. But what does this all tell you about demand levels for Tesla these days?
Look, I mean, I think it's a tale of two cities. I mean, what we're seeing in Europe, and we were just there the last few weeks, in terms of demand, you know, I think there's strong Model 3 pent-up demand in Europe, and I think you've seen that in some of the pre-orders. And I think that's obviously going to be a key part of the first half of the story, especially with China rolling off as well. But in the U.S. and the high end, the EV tax credit comes off. There's no doubt that's been a ding in the armor to demand, which is why they need to rip the Band-Aid off here and ultimately come out with that 35K vehicle profitably. Because for Tesla, it's not about the next 3 to 6 months, about where this is over the next few years. And I think this is something where, although it hurts in the near term, I think ultimately for the long term, this was the right move.